Coming up next on Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable, the state is ordered to immediately include inflation-adjusted increases in public school funding, and we will preview next week's primary election. Those stories and more next on the Journalists Roundtable.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable. I'm Ted Simons. Joining us tonight, Mary Jo Pitzel of the Arizona Republic, Mike Sunnix of the Phoenix Business Journal, and Aaliyah Rao of the Arizona Republic. Maricopa County Superior Court judge orders Arizona to immediately increase public school funding. First payment, $317 million.
This is no surprise. Judge Cooper, when she ruled back in July, on the payments, that was pretty clear that was the number. She just had to make her order final and make it clear that, okay, gotta put the money out now.
And talk about this money, why it has to be put out, why it has to be put out now.
Because she said so, and because the courts, the Supreme Court found that they did not properly fund the schools for inflation for 4 years running. So this is an agreement that number's been agreed to by the schools as well as by state officials. And where the money's going to come from, well, that will be up to our legislature to decide.
4 years of freezing that education, and the inflation adjustments for education have all come back to roost, huh?
Yeah, the legislature kind of played a game of chicken with the schools and the courts, and they've kind of done this on some other spending measures, the Medicaid stuff, the mortgage settlement, things like that, and some of these get challenged, and they've lost a couple of these, and this is a big loss. They're going to have to deal with this next year and years to come. And
talk about, Aaliyah, what kind of money are we talking about here? 5 year, 300 and some odd million for 5 years?
About $317 million over 5 years, and then we still have to have a conversation, or the judge still has to have a conversation about an additional $1.3 billion in retroactive payment. So that could get added on top of that. And one thing to note, when she says immediately, there's our immediately and then there's the legislature's immediately. Right. There's some debate as to whether this would need to be done during a special session this year. Much more likely they would probably just push it off to when the session starts next session.
Okay, so it's immediate as far as when you get to it.
Right. Well, this fiscal year.
Okay, all right. Oh, that's
right. It's got to happen this budget year. So I would say, boy, won't that be a nice first task for the new governor and the new legislature to do?
And what can they do? The rainy day fund is there for starters. What can they do?
You have the rainy day fund, and that can cover it for a full year, the first full year, and then probably a little bit more. That's probably the easiest thing to do. I know you've got Democrats already talking about maybe we need to roll back some of those tax cuts to businesses. You know, some are talking about maybe we need a tax hike, some sort of tax hike to look at.
But that's not going to happen.
No, that would have to go through the voters. I mean, the Republicans are such an ideological box on taxes and spending. I mean, they've been kind of arrogant towards the courts, towards the voters on a lot of issues, and now they're kind of paying the price for that. But yeah, where are they going to find it? They rainy day fund for the first year or so, but after that, they're going to have to look at stuff. I think the voters would probably approve a sales tax hike if it was just for schools, like they did before. When you start muddying the waters, then it starts to get confusing to people, and they vote no on things. So I think you could push that, but that's not going to come from the Republicans, most likely. That's going to have to come from the voters or the interest behind it.
Is that something that is being talked? What's being talked about out there? It's just still new.
There isn't a whole lot of talk because the options are very unpleasant. There's still some hope that maybe the economy would move along and produce more revenue, but we've seen pretty slow recovery from the recession. That's not going to happen. So you got to think. We've asked the gubernatorial candidates what their plans are, and mostly it was pretty much very broad statements. Doug Ducey said the one thing he won't do is raise taxes. So if he wins his primary and ultimately becomes governor, you're not going to get him to sign off on any kind of tax increase that would be referred from the legislature to the people.
I think you'll see them the first year use the rainy day fund and then use the old supply side economics that we're going to grow our way out of this via these tax cuts, which haven't paid off yet. And then if that doesn't work, they'll rob Peter to pay Paul. They'll cut other things that probably go social services, those types of things. I can't see them increasing revenue unless it comes from the voters.
Which would just be incredible because they just created this new Department of Child Safety and pledged that they were going to fully fund it, and recognizing that heightened funding needs to happen for a number of years until they dig themselves out of the hole that they had dug into with all these child welfare cases that did not get investigated. So if you start to cut into that, we're back into this horrible cycle.
So what kind of timetable are we looking at? Appeal, I would imagine, is likely, correct?
An appeal is likely. So, I mean, that could, if they can convince a judge that they need to stay, halt it until the appeal is dealt with. I mean, that could give them another year or so. But the courts have been consistent so far in how they've ruled and said they need to pay this money back.
Well, I was going to say, you may get another year, but it sounds like the courts are basically saying you can take all the time. You're going to have to pay this back. And again, you have to start at the new normal as opposed to where you froze it for 4 years.
Correct.
Well, this could be a blessing for the state. We're historically low in education per pupil funding. All those numbers, we're always way down there. This increases that. The business community has pushed for these types of things before. There's a lot of people that support these types of things. Just the folks at the legislature haven't always been on board with education funding.
Perhaps you missed the governor's quote that this would be absolutely devastating to the state of Arizona.
That's an ironical kind of thing to say, isn't it? That
Yeah.
to spend more money on schools is devastating.
All right, so we will keep an eye on that one because that's a real.
It'll be front and center when they
Yeah.
come back to work in January.
Okay, speaking of education, John Huppenthal wants $1 million from the feds to pay to educate these refugee kids 3 days before the election.
It's part of his primary strategy, along with opposing Common Core. He needs Republican primary voters, conservatives. They've been up in arms over the open border. They're worried about these amnesty orders that could come from the president. The Dreamers one for the refugee kids from Central America. And so Huppenthal wants a check from the federal government for $1 million.
Mike, are you saying that this is all to do with the election?
I think
and
it maybe
it's
just
pandering?
maybe a little bit, maybe just a smidge. Yeah.
Now, he did bring this up several years ago in the legislature, though. It's not new for him. I do have to say that.
Well, he also said, you got 1,000, up to 1,000 aren't accounted for. You could have 10,000 later on.
And you know what they're going to do? They're going to go register for school. How dare they do that to
well,
us?
and so again, there's more. Where's that money going to be coming from? Says John Huppenthal.
Right, and thus turning the spotlight back on the federal government. But the numbers are just pulled out of thin air. Where are these numbers coming from? And as for the children who perhaps came to this country illegally, they're already in our school system. We're already paying for them.
And the Supreme Court says we have to.
Right.
There is no
Right.
if, and, or but about that.
So basically, when they get here, we teach them.
Correct.
And find a way to teach them. And Huppenthal says, give me more money. Again, says it a week before the election. Does this impact the election?
Obviously he's having trouble after the blog posts and his previous Common Core stance, which goes against what a lot of the conservative primary voters feel about Common Core. They're opposed to it. So now, as he's struggling, he's now opposed to Common Core, or at least major parts of it, and he's brought up immigration and this border situation. Those are two big issues for Republicans right now. And so he's trying to appeal that. So he's trying to save maybe a leaky ship.
Without getting really good, solid polling, because we've had a lot of polling from a lot of folks that want to see their particular candidates do well, do you have to watch some of these candidates to see who's coming out late with some pretty bold statements and bold ideas to figure out who's not doing very well? Can you do that kind of math?
I think that's a big part of it. I mean, it's watch what I do, not what I say. And so when you see, we've heard that Ducey has been doing some targeted voter outreach in Tucson, very specific just to one part of the state. That tells you that maybe he wants to shore up his base there. Why? Well, if he's strong every place else, why do you need to worry about that? Likewise, when you do something like say that all these migrant kids are bringing Ebola, which will, animate a certain segment of voters, that tells you something about that candidate as well.
And that was Tobin's suggestion, I guess, there in that CD1 race, which is, we're kind of bouncing around here. We got the election coming up here too. That CD1 race, Tobin sounds like he still has some work to do.
It's much closer, I think, than people originally thought it was going to be. I think people thought Tobin was kind of the chosen one, the one that was going to take on Kirkpatrick and have a good chance of winning that race. And it's close. So yeah, he's got a challenge there. And I think on Huppenthal, real quick, this race shouldn't have been in the spotlight at all. This shouldn't have been a primary race. And now he's out there with these pretty bold statements and maybe statements of desperation. So same thing with Tobin. When you start talking about Ebola, you're kind of getting out there a little bit.
The idea of, and again, we're talking about Republican candidates for the most part, Republican on Republican campaigning here. The idea of the governor getting as involved as she is in these races, these primary races, how unusual is that?
From what we've heard, it's extremely unusual. And not just, well, she had said she would support the folks who supported her Medicaid expansion. I think what people have seen as unusual is her coming in supporting candidates of incumbents who opposed her Medicaid expansion. And that's what people have kind of really taken offense to.
And it, again, unusual. You don't usually see this kind of thing, do you?
No, I'm trying to pick my brain to think when's the last time we saw a governor weighed in on their own party primary and sort of pick and choose. You know, her argument is that, look, you know, we want to make sure that we leave the state in sort of common sense hands. These are her common sense candidates, and it's not good enough to just defend the Republicans who voted for Medicaid expansion, but she wants to broaden that coalition.
And and she says that she wants to preserve her legacy as well. The critics are saying she's more concerned about her legacy than she is the Republican Party, because that's where the brickbats are coming from.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Medicaid debate was so contentious, it was so nasty. I think that left a lot of hurt feelings kind of on both sides. So some of it just stems from a lot of the rhetoric around that. And there's kind of a fight, a civil war within the party, Republican Party here, between the moderates and the business community and kind of the Tea Party, social conservative crowd. And Jan has ended up on that side, and she's been, when she took office, I don't think we saw her being this kind of activist legacy type governor, but she's really turned into that. Part of it's situational, and there's kind of an imperial governor to her that you didn't see in past governors, more caretakers, quieter, but she's really taken on that role and that kind of persona in her second term.
The other thing, and I guess we'll see with the results on Tuesday, but what kind of weight does her endorsement bring? I mean, we made a lot about the fact that she is taking this unusual step of endorsing within her own party's primary, but is that going to sway voters? I mean, she's got money that she's putting behind it, which is very convincing and can perhaps move some votes. But does her? I just don't know with those primary voters what that endorsement means.
And that's the key, isn't it? It's the primary voters, and usually, more often than not, the primary voters are the truer believers and perhaps more conservative or more liberal on either side of the aisle. In this case, more conservative. Vindictive, unbecoming of the governor. I mean, these folks are not happy with her. How much is she helping those candidates?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the question. I think the question is, how do the independents play in this? Yes, typically in primaries we have seen either end. But you have this new group that's come in, and how are they going to vote? How many of them are going to vote? I could see them going in her direction.
And you also have, I would imagine, Democrats shifting over to the Republican. They don't have anything to vote for from primary day. I mean, obviously, if they're Democrats, they can't go over there, but they can go in as independents or into Democratic-leaning independents and make a mess.
Yeah, I think this is all about turnout. Do the independents turn out? Do moderates turn out? Do younger voters turn out? And vote for certain candidates, Michelle Reagan, obviously Scott Smith, even Brnovich, who's very kind of conservative, but he's appealing to kind of the younger Republicans, moderate Republicans, because of Horn's baggage. And conversely, how much does Arpaio's endorsement of Ducey and Horn help in those races and turn out older voters? So I think it's a lot about turnout. But yeah, I think one part of it is there's a vacuum because the Democratic Party is so weak; they don't have any chamber of the legislature, none of the statewide offices. So all the debate is on the Republican side right now.
Unless you have a congressional race that you're concerned about, if you're an independent, I should say, and you lean Democrat, I would imagine you're going to go Republican on the ballot, aren't you?
Yeah.
So the governor wants to preserve her legacy, and she wants to extend what she's done intact. Could the governor's legacy be a further divided GOP?
Definitely. I mean, her own legacy is kind of divided. Who would have thought the author of SB 1070 would be considered the moderate governor in this whole election? So I think everybody's also still trying to figure out where she sits. But yeah, and people are saying she could completely further the divide between these two parts of the party.
That could be a legacy, couldn't it?
That could, and I think that could set the stage for a very interesting party election come January when the Republican Party picks leadership. will Robert Graham run again? But there might be a big healing role there for somebody's going to have to emerge if these primaries wind up with mixed results. Somebody's going to have to emerge and at least attempt to be a healer.
Well, the question is, can the next governor be that person?
Well, and here's another question. Is the current governor that person? Is Governor Brewer the head of the Republican Party in Arizona?
The conservatives say no.
Yeah. So if the conservatives say no, can she be? I mean, who leads the Republican Party right now?
It's kind of a vacuum. It's kind of splintered. I mean, you look at, you point to the governor and her crowd and the establishment, the business community. It probably lines up behind her, and they obviously line up behind Scott Smith a little more. The sheriff is still a pretty powerful guy, even though he's a little older and he stepped back a little bit. His endorsement means something in some of these races. It certainly helped Ducey, especially compared to Christine Jones. And I think what the sheriff stands for, more than maybe the sheriff himself now, is still maybe at the head of the party a little bit.
Okay, before we get to this, the kind of a look-see at the primary coming up here, what's this Bob Robson thing with the signs? What's going on here?
Well, Representative Bob Robson from Chandler is one of the Medicaid Republicans. He's one of those lawmakers who did stand with Brewer and voted for Medicaid expansion, and has therefore a target on his back from the right wing of his party. And they see an opening here. There's been some, as happens in a lot of campaigns, there's been some chicanery going on with campaign signs, and a precinct committeeman from that district provided video footage. It's very segmented though and rather choppy, that purports to show Robson being involved in sign theft. The problem is that the videos don't actually catch the actual act, but somehow, some way, they were able to convince two Maricopa County Sheriff's deputies to take a look at this and write up a citation, and he's been cited with 2 counts of tampering with campaign signs and has a court date.
And that is after Chandler police looked at this and...
So they said, keep it coming if you got it, but there's just not enough evidence here. We're not going to charge.
And aren't these the arrow signs that have something that say, like,
Well,
he's
that's-
liberal or he supported MAGA?
That's a good point. Now, is state law says you can't take a political candidate's sign. Are these candidate signs or just an arrow pointing at something?
Well, that's what's going to come out in the courts, and we've had some past cases. I think Harry Mitchell had this too, and it'll be whether this counts as a campaign sign or something else.
Right.
But I think the PR is just a bad thing, to be out there pulling signs, to be accused of pulling signs out there. That's what the story that people will see. So this close to the election, it's probably not good to be seen as maybe doing that.
Well,
Didn't hurt Harry Mitchell, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
actually
true.
when his thing got through court, it was dismissed
Yeah.
ultimately. Now these arrow signs, they're not just arrow signs, they're the arrow of truth.
Yes.
And to point out that certain candidates voted for Medicaid expansion or Obamacare as they see it.
And obviously this has nothing to do with removing, tampering, touching a sign, but the sign said voted for Obamacare.
Right.
I mean, that's not even accurate. He didn't vote for Obama. He can't vote for Obamacare.
Right.
He's not
He
in the-
voted for Medicaid
Yeah,
expansion.
he's not in Congress.
He enabled Obamacare. I
He
think.
enabled Obama.
Well,
enabler.
yeah, or they took advantage of a provision of Obamacare which allowed states to expand Medicaid.
It just shows you these things with Harry Mitchell and Bob, who's a nice guy, how fragile kind of the egos and the characters are of people that run for elected office. They put themselves out there to run for office, but they are very sensitive characters at their core a lot of times, and that stuff really gets to them. I think a lot of them take those things very personally, even though it's part of the game. You see these arrow signs popped up a lot of different places in support or opposition to people, and it shows kind of the fragileness of our elected officials. They're different from us.
Was there something going on with Hallman's signs too, or was it? With,
There is, but there's no arrows involved in this one.
what was involved with that one?
This is a video, and this is a treasurer's race, that Jeff DeWitt released that appears to look like Hallman is putting his signs in front of DeWitt signs on the road so no one can see the DeWitt signs. Now again, we've got edited, choppy video. DeWitt is saying it's Hallman putting them up. Hallman actually is saying no, he was taking them down. We've heard, apparently he had gotten a phone call from an anonymous person saying there's a problem with one of your signs. Can you go deal with it on this corner? That happened to be the corner that was videotaped. Now Hallman has now sent a letter, Hallman's lawyer has sent a letter to DeWitt's lawyer saying take down the video,
Or
maybe
else.
they'll sue.
Yeah. Wow. Who knew signs could be so dramatic?
Yeah, well, they're a big part of our landscape. You know, you see them
An
everywhere.
effective part of the landscape. Do people do what? Has
Well, I
anyone done a
think-
study on that?
You know, I'm sure someone has. I haven't researched that. But I think if you drive past signs and you get a name sort of ingrained in your brain, that's probably going to make, you know, subliminally make some kind of impact. But more importantly, creating these fracases over the signs, you know, oh my gosh, now they've got, you know, 2 charges against a sitting lawmaker in a court, which, by the way, his attorney went to the Justice Court to file his notice of appearance, and that citation against Representative Robson had not yet been filed, even though it had been 4 days. So
Sound and fury signifying not much so far.
you wonder what's going on.
Interesting. All right, let's get back now to the primary. It's coming. It's coming.
That is the primary.
Yeah, not a moment too soon on Tuesday. What are you seeing out there? Trends. Let's start with the governor's races. Is it still Ducey's to lose?
You know, every poll that's out there's not been a lot of independent polling. There's a lot of questions about the polling that's been done, but Ducey has led every poll. And these polls come out from the auto dealers, other folks show Ducey with the lead, but we haven't seen polls from anybody else disputing that. So Smith has come up, obviously, since the governor's endorsement, and he's kind of got some momentum. Jones has a lot of money out there, including from Bob Parsons, the GoDaddy founder, which I think has helped her steady the ship a little bit. But everything shows Ducey ahead. So I think unless we see this upsurge of new voters, independents, younger voters, moderates that don't usually turn out in Republican primaries, that could really buoy Smith. Other than that, I think Ducey's the odds-on favorite.
And as far as taking, he's the odds-on favorite, and you got to think that the Thomases of the world, Riggs, Jones now, who's kind of almost, if you believe the polling, whatever it is slipping a little bit, they all must be taking more, don't you think, from Ducey than from Smith, don't you think?
Yes, yeah, and especially I think one thing I'll be looking for is the Andy Thomas vote. I mean, he's got a very dedicated block of voters and strong name ID in Maricopa County. Maybe not always favorable, but people know that name, and he's been using his public campaign financing dollars, I think, rather wisely with some very targeted commercials. And I think this latest poll didn't even show him in double digits, but I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I could see Thomas being a real factor. He has these ads on Fox News running, saying he's the only one that supported 1062. He supports the traditional family. I think there's a picture of a cross on there. I mean, he has really staked his claim on this, and that could play a role. That could hurt Ducey. But I also think, you know, you look at the LDS vote. Smith and Bennett are both Mormons. Bennett's a formidable candidate. He's not up there, but he certainly will be in the top 4. And do Bennett voters go to Smith at the end because I think Smith has a chance?
All right, and as far as the other races, real quickly, we have 2 incumbents in Huppenthal and in Tom Horn. They have races on their hands, don't they? I mean, this is close business.
They've each got very controversial personal issues going on. We've got Huppenthal with his online comments. We've got, you know, Horn with the investigations against him. So yeah, their opponents are surprisingly kind of coming up.
But what's interesting about it that despite their personal problems, their opponents don't have a lot of statewide name ID. You know, and Huppenthal and Horn, for better or worse, I mean, they've been elected statewide. Their names, they've been out there for 4 years, you know, doing policy, holding press conferences, et cetera. And some of the things for which they're being, you know, tarred, you know, aren't necessarily negatives in some voters' minds.
Yeah, Brnovich needs to really sweep in Maricopa County. The media coverage here of Horn has really hurt him with Phoenix area voters. He does pretty well outside because maybe they're not getting the Republican and everybody else's stories on all his troubles. And Brnovich is very conservative. He's a Goldwater issue guy, and he's going to be dependent on kind of independents and moderates that are reformists that want somebody that's a little cleaner in there than Tom. Same thing with Huppenthal. Douglas is very conservative, but she may benefit from newer voters, independents, moderates that just want Huppenthal out of there after all the Falcon 9 stuff.
And almost lost in all this week, the courts ruled that the Clean Elections Commission can investigate Tom Horn, even though he was not a clean elections candidate. I guess, A, we're finding out how much do court cases up until voting day impact your campaign, but B, that's a big deal. That means clean elections can have some say in these particular candidates and these particular politicians.
That'll will go far beyond this election. I mean, that says that if you're running with your own money, they still have oversight. You know, they can still watch your behavior. People can still file complaints, and that's somebody, you know, that some consider a little more independent watching these guys.
And what's interesting is it was last year that there was a proposal in the legislature to turn over the whole handling of elections complaints to the Clean Elections Commission on the argument that these were appointed officials, they weren't elected, they weren't partisan, and that whole equation's been, turned upside down now, and it's like the horrible Clean Elections Commission because they're appointed and they're not accountable to anybody.
Well, we shall see, and when next we meet, general election
Yes.
stories will abound, and we'll get out of the primary. Thank you all for being here. Monday on Arizona Horizon, Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton talks about light rail expansion and other issues affecting the city, and we'll hear about a new report outlining the state's future water needs. That's Monday on Arizona Horizon. Tuesday, it's Election Day. We'll have results and analysis on our 10 o'clock show. Wednesday, conductor Tito Munoz talks about his new position with the Phoenix Symphony. Thursday, how best to recruit young business people in Phoenix. And Friday, it's the Journalist Roundtable. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.